7 rare powers that mark you as God's elite shadow messenger. There's a realm that exists beneath the surface of the world. We know a realm not lit by sunlight, but by soul light. It's not a place you can travel to with your feet. It reveals itself only when your inner eyes crack open after you've walked through fire, betrayal, silence, and death, not the kind that buries your body, but the kind that buries your old self. If you're watching this, you're not here by accident. You didn't click this video out of curiosity. Some part of you knows. You felt the pull. You've lived the shadows. You've seen what most people run from. And still you're standing. That alone is a sign that you might be one of them, one of us, one of the few who carry the rare powers that mark you as God's elite shadow messenger. Now, let's get something straight. This path isn't glamorous. It's not about being chosen in the way humans fantasize about: applause, admiration, spiritual aesthetics. No, this path chooses those who can carry pain and still speak peace. Those who can walk through spiritual deserts and not curse the silence. Those who can sit with demons within themselves and others and not flinch. The elite shadow messengers are not saints. They're more like spiritual warriors who've been trained in silence, refined in suffering, and ordered to rise again and again, even when it doesn't make sense, especially when it doesn't make sense.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first rare power you begin to notice is spiritual pattern recognition. You start seeing the truth behind the surface of people, events, systems. You walk into a room and feel the lies hanging in the air like fog. You look at someone smiling and sense the grief behind their eyes. You hear someone speak and know that their words are armor, not truth. This isn't paranoia. It's perception. Not everyone can handle it. Most don't want to see the matrix behind the veil. But you were born to see it. You were made to decode human behavior, spiritual contracts, and energetic signatures. You don't just hear what's said, you hear what's not said. And that makes people uncomfortable. But it also makes you powerful. The second rare power is energetic neutrality in chaos. While others spiral, you observe. You may feel deeply, you probably do, but you've developed a strange calm in the storm. Not because you're cold, but because you've been through so many inner hurricanes that you've learned how to anchor. When others panic, you intuitively hold space. You don't even realize you're doing it most of the time. But your presence becomes a lighthouse, a stabilizer, and those around you feel it. They come to you in their breakdowns. Why? Because your energy carries the signature of someone who's survived their own. The third rare power is shadow empathy. This is one of the most misunderstood gifts. You don't just feel people's light, you feel their darkness too. Their addictions, jealousy, rage, shame. And instead of rejecting them, you understand them. Not because you condone the behavior, but because you've met those same shadows within yourself. You've sat with your own monsters and asked them why they scream. That gives you a depth of compassion that can't be faked. And it's why people often break down in your presence. You don't judge them. They feel safe, even when they don't understand why. It's because your soul speaks a language theirs forgot. But there's a cost to these gifts. And this is where many fall off the path. Because the more you embody these powers, the more isolated you become. You start to see how much of this world is built on illusion. How many relationships are transactional? How many spiritual leaders are selling light while running from their own darkness? It's disorienting. You begin to wonder, am I crazy? Am I broken? Why do I feel like I'm from another planet? But that alienation is part of the initiation. You're not meant to fit into a sick society. You're meant to heal it. And that healing begins by standing in the truth of who you are, even if you stand alone. And yet, you're never truly alone. That's the paradox. You feel separate, but you're more connected to Source than ever. Because the fourth rare power is direct communion with the divine. Not through rituals or intermediaries, but through raw, unfiltered connection. You start receiving downloads in the middle of the night. You hear guidance during silence. You speak words that weren't rehearsed and realize later they were exactly what someone needed. You stop praying like a beggar and start listening like a vessel. You become the message, not just the messenger. And that's when the real power begins to flow through you. But this power isn't flashy. It's not for show. It humbles you. You realize you're not better than anyone. You're just tuned to a different frequency. A frequency earned through surrender, not status. You begin to live in service, not the people-pleasing kind, but the sacred kind. The kind where you speak truth, even when it's inconvenient. The kind where you walk away from what doesn't resonate, even if it costs you everything. The kind where you heal quietly, love fiercely, and carry wisdom that wasn't taught in schools, but forged in the fire. So, let me ask you a question that might stop you in your tracks. What if everything you've lost was actually God clearing space for your mission? What if your pain wasn't punishment but preparation? Because that's what it is. Every betrayal, every breakdown, every moment you felt left behind, it was all part of your coding. The divine doesn't waste anything, especially not suffering. Every shadow you've walked through has sharpened your vision. Every silence you've endured has amplified your hearing. Every death of the old self has made room for the birth of the real you. And if you've made it this far, you need to know something. You're not watching this by accident. You're remembering. You're activating. You're being reminded of who you are, not just a seeker, not just a survivor, but a soul with a very specific frequency. A soul encoded with rare powers. A soul marked by the divine to carry messages others are too afraid to speak. Not to everyone, but to the few who are ready, to the ones who remember, just like you. The hidden language of frequency, how shadow messengers transmit truth without words. There is a kind of communication that transcends language. It's older than words, older than symbols, etched into the very fabric of your being. If you're one of God's elite shadow messengers, you already know what I'm talking about. You've felt it. Maybe you couldn't name it, but you've carried it like a vibration beneath your skin. It's that moment when you walk into a space and the entire atmosphere shifts, even if you say nothing. It's when someone locks eyes with you for a second too long, not because of attraction, but because they feel something they can't explain. That's the hidden language of frequency. It's the real message. And you don't speak it, you are it. This is one of the rarest powers a soul can carry, the ability to transmit truth without speaking. Why? Because it bypasses the mind and goes straight into the nervous system. It doesn't require explanation, defense, or debate. It's raw resonance. And when you carry that kind of frequency, people either feel safe with you or terrified. There is no middle, because high-frequency truth doesn't cater to comfort. It exposes. It recalibrates. It calls everything out of alignment into question. You don't have to try. You don't have to analyze. You are the signal. And the signal is undeniable. This is why you've probably noticed that people either open up to you instantly or retreat from you without warning. They don't even know why. They'll say things like, "You're intense," or "I feel like I can't lie around you." That's because your energy is tuned to truth. It's like an invisible tuning fork that vibrates at a holy frequency. Those who are aligned with their own soul feel uplifted in your presence. Those who are avoiding themselves feel exposed. And this is where your path becomes sacred and dangerous. Because the moment you begin to live at the level of frequency instead of performance, the world no longer knows what to do with you. You become unreadable to those who rely on superficial cues. You stop playing the game. You stop seeking validation. You stop explaining yourself. And in that silence, your energy speaks louder than ever. It starts to attract what's real and repel what's false. Not because you're trying to, but because your field is doing the sorting for you. Let me ask you something that most never consider. What if your silence is more powerful than your words? What if your presence is doing the work, even when you feel invisible? You see, we've been conditioned to believe that power lies in what we say, what we do, how we're seen. But true spiritual power is invisible. It's felt, not shown. It's remembered, not performed. And shadow messengers are masters of that unseen realm. You don't just carry knowledge. You embody transmission. Your very essence becomes a living reminder of a deeper reality, one that most people have forgotten, but instantly recognize when they feel it. That's why your presence heals. That's why your words land even when they're few. Because you're not just talking, you're emitting. And here's the strange part: this power often feels like nothing to you. You don't walk around thinking, I'm powerful. You walk around wondering why you feel so different, why people treat you so strangely, why some are drawn to you and others avoid you like fire. But that's the evidence. That's how you know. Your frequency is doing the talking, even when your mouth is closed. You don't need to explain your mission. You are your mission. And the ones who are meant to receive it will feel it. Not all at once. Not always consciously, but deeply. This is why it's so important for you to stop chasing recognition. Your validation won't come from the crowd. It will come from the silence after someone's soul has been shifted just by being near you. It will come from the quiet tears someone cries an hour after your conversation. It will come from the ripple effect of your frequency long after you've left the room. That's the power of being a shadow messenger. You don't need a stage. Your life is the broadcast. So when you feel unseen, remember it's not because you're not being felt. It's because your message is speaking louder than words, at a level most people haven't yet learned how to hear, but their soul knows. And that's enough. The fire within, why your inner battles were your divine training grounds. There's a truth so raw, so often overlooked in the spiritual world, that most people spend their entire lives running from it. Your greatest power was forged in your greatest pain, not despite it. Because of it. Every breakdown, every betrayal, every night you screamed into the void and heard nothing back, those weren't curses. They were callings. Not the glamorous kind, not the kind that comes with incense or angel numbers or cosmic signs. No, these were the kind of callings that came with blood, with silence, with isolation so deep it felt like death. And yet, here you are, breathing, watching, remembering. That alone is proof that the fire didn't consume you. It consecrated you. You see, elite shadow messengers aren't chosen because they're perfect. They're chosen because they're honest. They've been to hell and didn't lose their compassion. They've stared into the abyss and chose to carry light anyway. Not because it was easy, but because there was no other option. That's what sets you apart. Your wounds didn't make you bitter, they made you wise. Your mistakes didn't make you fake, they made you real. Your darkness didn't destroy you, it initiated you. But let's not romanticize it. Let's speak plainly. The path you've walked was brutal. You've questioned your sanity. You've begged for God to speak. You've watched people you love turn away because your truth made them uncomfortable. And yet, something inside you wouldn't let you quit. That wasn't ego. That wasn't pride. That was the divine fire, the one that refuses to go out, even when the wind of life tries to snuff it every single day. This fire isn't warm and comforting. It's not the kind you sit by to relax. It's the kind that burns away everything that isn't you. It strips you down to your essence. It destroys illusions, especially the ones you built to survive. And that's the training. That's the divine boot camp. Because if you're going to carry the messages that wake people up, you have to be unshakable. Not hard, not closed. Unshakable. And that only comes from having your own soul shattered and rebuilt by grace. So instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Start asking, what did this build in me? What did the abandonment teach you about self-worth? What did the silence teach you about listening to your own spirit? What did the betrayal teach you about discernment? Every single wound was a teacher, every scar a map, and if you trace them back far enough, you'll find the blueprint of your mission written in pain but activated through healing. Here's something that most people won't tell you: your pain didn't happen because you were weak. It happened because you were strong enough to transmute it. God doesn't waste suffering, and the universe doesn't test those who aren't destined to carry something sacred. You were forged in fire so your words could carry the voltage of truth, so your presence could carry the weight of remembrance, so your life could be a living portal for others to find their way back to their own divine center. But you had to go first. That's the cost of this path. Shadow messengers are always the first to break, the first to grieve, the first to awaken so that others don't have to go blind into the same darkness. You light the path because you became the path. Your life is the curriculum. Your story is the sermon. Your scars are the scriptures written in flesh. So now, when you feel the fire inside begin to stir, don't resist it, don't fear it. That fire is your guidance system. It only burns when you're being called higher. Let it purify what's no longer aligned. Let it ignite what's still dormant. Let it remind you that you're not here to be safe. You're here to be true. And when the world tries to gaslight you, when it tells you to calm down, to be quiet, to play small, remember, they can't understand your fire because they haven't survived your furnace. But you did. You walked through it. And now you carry the flame, the echo of the divine, while your life is the message God wants the world to hear. You may not realize it yet, but your life is already speaking. Not just through your words, but through your choices, your energy, your presence. You are a walking transmission tower for something far greater than yourself. And no, it's not about being perfect. It's not about being enlightened or untouched by pain. It's about being real, real enough to hold both light and shadow in the same breath. Real enough to tell the truth when it's easier to stay silent. Real enough to embody a frequency that shakes people out of their sleep. That's what makes you a messenger, not because you memorized doctrine, but because you became the doctrine, lived it, bled for it, rose from it. You're not here to recite what's already been said. You're here to echo what God hasn't spoken yet through your life, through your story, through the moments you wanted to give up but didn't, through the quiet strength that no one clapped for, through the invisible healing you did in rooms where no one saw you cry. That's the message. That's the sermon. That's the sacred echo the world needs now more than ever. Because, let's be honest, people don't change because of information. They change because of frequency. They change because they feel something in your presence that wakes up something in theirs. And that awakening doesn't come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from being honest about your becoming. You don't need to convince anyone of your power. You don't need to market your mission. When a soul is lit from within, the world feels it. No billboard required. That's why I need you to stop waiting. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission. Stop waiting to be ready. Stop waiting for the pain to go away before you share the wisdom it gave you. You don't need more time. You need more trust. Trust that your life, as it is right now with all its mess and mystery, is enough to move mountains. Because it already has. You've already survived what others didn't. You've already walked through storms that should have drowned you. You're still here, aren't you? That's the message. You are the miracle. And here's the wild part. The more you own that truth, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're trying to attract, but because you become undeniable. Not to everyone, but to the right ones. The ones who are ready to awaken. The ones who are ready to remember. The ones who are secretly praying, God, send me a sign. And then they meet you. Not because you're their savior, but because your life echoes the divine in a way they forgot was possible. So let me ask you a final soul-cutting question. What if the very thing you thought disqualified you is the exact thing God wants to use to qualify you? Because it is. Your heartbreak, your addiction, your failures, your shame, all of it is part of the sacred echo. All of it is raw material for revelation. You didn't go through all that just to survive. You went through it to remember, to embody, to transmit. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are right on time. You are the message. You are the echo. You are the walking proof that shadow and light can coexist inside one vessel, and that vessel can still radiate divinity. So go ahead, speak with your life. Let your actions preach. Let your alignment be the microphone. Let your frequency be the language. And let the world hear the echo of God through you. Because when you stop hiding, when you stop shrinking, when you stop doubting, the heavens don't just whisper, they roar, and the world listens.